that I ever had. And you can see that that's my dad, of course. You know, I was blessed with one of the world's great fathers. And he was a sports broadcaster. And he gave me my first introduction to the power of the microphone. That's me at age 2. And I like to say that my dad was one of the early adapters of take our daughters to work. And we know that fathers are extremely important in terms of women being confident and achieving in male environments. Supportive fathers are huge in terms of that. And I certainly had one of the great ones. And you know, this is my dad and me when I was working that's in the Tiger press box. And I sat next to my dad at hundreds, maybe 1,000 games right next to him. He's covering for his station, I'm covering for mine. Tremendous mentor to me, you can imagine. And when things happen in those locker rooms, and they did, who do you think that I talked to about it? But I want to just mention the fact that he's the one who gave me some of the best advice I ever received in my life. And he told it to all of his 7 children. And I don't know if my dad made this up or heard it somewhere. It's very simple, but it's really powerful. It's never eliminate yourself. And here's how he would explain it to us. He would say, you know what, world out there is really competitive. And if you want to make a team, or you want to get that job, you have to go for it. And if you don't go for it, you know, you have if you're not good enough for it, if you're not the best for it, the world will eliminate you. But if you never go for it, you have eliminated yourself. And I use that mantra to this day. Next time that you're wondering about whether you're good enough for that job or that position or whatever it is, just think of those really simple words. Never eliminate yourself. So I want to leave you with a quote, because that piece about never eliminating yourself is, we know from research that it usually takes women in our culture about 10 years longer than men to figure out how good they are. And a big piece of why I'm out there and traveling and talking and writing is that if we can shorten that learning curve, shorten that, women are going to go so much faster. And I want young women to go faster and farther than I did, and my generation did. I'm counting on you to do that. And I'll leave you with a quote that I thought it was, you know, as I was thinking about coming and talking to you, and then I saw that Hillary Clinton, our Secretary of State, spoke last week in San Francisco at APEC, which is the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation. She was speaking there, and it was a summit on women in the economy. And here's what she said at that summit. The beginning of the 21st century marks the beginning of the participation age, when we don't have a person to waste. And we certainly don't have a gender to waste. Each of you, highly educated, professional women, clearly with the ganas, as they say in Spanish, the drive, to come out on a Saturday morning and find out how can you lift yourself, how can you achieve more and help one another. We need you. Your company needs you. The human family needs you, operating at your highest level. Your highest level. And I will leave you by just basically saying, I urge you, I encourage you, I challenge you, help one another, support one another, and dare to lead. Now let's go power up. And I believe we have a little time for questions, right? And I hope you have some great questions. And I like to say that, you know, I made a whole first career asking really tough questions. So, you know, don't hold back. Raise your voices. Yes.
I have a question. I was hired in under to work under someone, but I feel like I have the ability to even lead that person. So how do I approach it? Because and officially, I'm not reporting to him or to this person, but in many areas, I feel that he's lacking, that I am more than capable of doing, but I don't know how to do it the smart way and not getting fired.
Well, that's a cool question. Of course, I would say the number one piece that I love hearing is that you know that you can do that job.
Yes.
You know, you see it. You know that you're good enough. And so now you're moving into the whole area of being politically savvy. And that's another level of skill. And you need allies. You need allies. You cannot do that alone. And so you need allies. And so number one, you cannot undermine your boss. You know, you cannot undermine your boss. But you need to find who are the people in your organization who know you're really good. Go build those relationships.
Right, actually, I'm not reporting to that person.
Uh-huh.
And actually, I got a new boss. And in one way or another, I have hinted that I can do more than what I was assigned.
Okay. Well, I would say hinting isn't enough. You know, you go ask for it. And we, over and over and over again, and we have so many women, you know, who basically hire people and will say, you know what, I've worked for 40 years, I can't tell you the number of men who came into my office and said, I need a raise, I want that job, and the number of women who came into that, none. Women sitting around hoping somebody's going to think, wow, she'd be really good. It can't be hinting. Yes. You need allies, and you need to showcase what you're doing and showcase your skills and clearly communicate how you'd like to develop and grow and ask for it. You know, I can handle more. What's the next opportunity for me? It doesn't have to be necessarily that one. It could be something else.
Now, there's a fine investment.
Yep.
And we have to
Well, I will say this. Don't worry, if you're moving into really competitive positions, you're going to be a threat for others. Because, you know, as you start going up there, there's fewer jobs. And you don't have to, I mean, you can get along with people. Men are just great at this, and women just have to get better at this. I mean, men can get in there and fight it out, and I want that job. I'm gonna go for that job. And they can both be going for the job and go have a beer together, or play golf together, or whatever. And so we have to not be uncomfortable with competition. And hey, I want that job. Here's why I should have that job. Go after it. Yeah. No, you just want to work at your full potential. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. Danica Patrick, obviously. Thank you.
Danica?
Danica obviously broke through some serious barriers getting into NASCAR and Indy and all that. She also uses her beauty, her looks, her body in some of her advertisements and some of the things that she promotes. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that as a leader, as a leading woman, and also using that side of her.
Well, you're right. That is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's perfect. And that's why she's a classic example of the I'll do it my way innovators who believe that they can kind of do it both ways. You know, I can showcase my sexuality, you know, in the workforce, and I can also be a leader. Now, and Danica Patrick has all kinds of pretty provocative stuff. She's a gorgeous woman, and you'll see her on her website in short shorts and tight stuff, and that's all about it. She's measured as an athlete. It's just how fast she goes, you know? And so nobody's judging, you know, she's in a very unique situation, and so I don't say that that undermines her in any way. A woman who's in a corporate world or a different setting to think you can dress like Danica Patrick, no. No. Danica Patrick, as long as she's winning, she can dress just about any way she wants. And actually, she's in the entertainment business. You know, and so think about, she's in the entertainment business. So Beyonce and Lady Gaga and all that kind of stuff, they're making a lot of money, getting a lot of power. Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Enjoyed your talk. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My question is around, a lot of time women, when we're in our early to mid careers, we tend to be the worker bees. We tend to be the executors of the initiatives, the strategies, etc. How do you make the transition of being, quote unquote, the worker bee and elevating up while you're still maintaining your workload? You probably don't have additional resources. Most people aren't getting additional resources in this economy. So how do you elevate up and continue to position yourself up as a leader and not just a tactical executor?
Right, and that's huge. That's the big piece, because there's a tremendous number of women who are doing a whole lot of the work, and they're not breaking through into those leadership positions even though they are ready. And so a mistake is to think that your inbox is so full, or you've got so much work to do, that you can't go out to lunch with your peers, or with, you have to build in, that's the piece about being politically savvy. The whole piece about how you advance in an organization is huge, about allies and about how you're judged, and you have to take leadership of that. Don't wait for someone else to sort of say, wow, Kelly just always delivers, and then, then they like to just kind of leave you in that job because it's all taken care of. So I would say that build it into your time. The time that you spend in a day or in a week, that there's a strategic piece of it that is about what's my next job. And have those conversations. Have those conversations and find those allies. We know now that women are more mentored than men in the workforce. So there's all kinds of mentoring going on. But men are sponsored more. And that's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A mentor can really help you, develop your professional skills and all that kind of stuff. A sponsor is about positional power. Who gets those jobs? When you start moving up to the top, very competitive, into those leadership positions, people are sitting around the table having a conversation about who gets that job. And you need somebody saying, I want Kelly to get that job, fighting for you to get that job. Because believe me, the men have sponsors. When you start moving into those positions, you can't do it alone. And so I would say, make a list. Who are your potential sponsors? And we're talking positional power. And it's a very strategic. And you've got to lead. What's the next job? Okay? This is my, yes.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Sienna.
Sure.
Hi. Hi.
My question is that, in your opinion, in traveling and speaking to everyone, what would you say is the #1 obstacle facing innovators, I guess, like myself?
The #1 obstacle that I think innovators face right now is you haven't learned how to fight. Haven't learned how to fight. And I have Dr. Judy Rosenthal, who's teaches out at the University of California Business School, MBAs. She said, my students come back in 5 years and say, what the heck? Because the fact is, the great thing is that innovators now, as you're going through school, there's more women on college campuses than men now. And so you haven't had to fight for a lot. And really moving into those first jobs and even up through middle management, you don't really have to fight a lot. But as you get higher up, this whole piece about competition and going for it, you got to get tough, and you haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. There's also the whole thing about kind of baby boomers and Gen X's, whether they're men or women, wonder about whether the Gen Ys will pay their dues and will work, do the work and all that kind of thing. And I think it's fantastic that you're not willing to work the way we had to, that you're going to change the work culture. And so, I say break the rules. But you have to earn, you can't walk in there and start breaking the rules. You have to earn your credentials first. You got to demonstrate that you can do this stuff, and you want to do this stuff, but you're not going to work in a way from 1960 and 70 and 80. And so those are the two biggest pieces. And I'm really counting on Gen Ys, you know, men as well as women, to, that's the next frontier right there, is fix that. It's not work-life balance. We're never going to have work-life balance. It's all about integrating it and working it together. But we do need work-life, we need work-life policy. We need changes, you know, that aren't just about one-offs for individuals. It's about a culture. In our country, in our companies, and the really smart companies are getting it. But you have to lead it. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi. I have two daughters, 15 and almost 11.
How old, 15 and 11?
15 and 11. And like you said, your dad was a role model. I think it's difficult to be a role model today as a dad because of the pressures of life. My wife works and would rather bring her softer side and spend time with the kids. But I want to try to balance that, both from when you talk about leadership and corporate environment, but also bring those kinds of skills to a family environment where you build and instill the 7 points that you raised up on the slide very early on. And any tips on those kinds of points in that environment?
Yes, I mean, the very fact that you're a father and you're thinking about that is huge. I mean, that gives your daughters an advantage right away, that you're conscious of it. Yeah, and you know, the biggest piece of it is culture, that women have to swim through this cultural muck. And so your daughters are going to have to swim through that muck. And it's the headwinds, it's the stuff that's still not quite sure if a woman's quite up to. It's all the stuff that we've gotten rid of a lot of it. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still plenty there. And so the biggest thing you can do is really confidence. You know, that is the differentiator. And you know, when they start hitting those adolescent years, you're right there. Our culture really, there's some heavy messages out there right now to young women about you know, being babes and being, you know, it's all about playing the sex card and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of cultural pressure about that. And so to try to support that and build confidence in them, and playing sports is great, you know, even playing an instrument, something they're really good at, you know, and supporting that is all about building confidence. I would say the biggest thing you can do is just build their confidence, to support that. Mm-hmm. Yes?
And it was mentioned in the introduction that you were a single mother when you left your job and started your own company. What helped you overcome the fears, and what helped you succeed in your business, in starting your own business?
Well, I would say that, you know, if you look at my career, I have kind of an unusual career path. I mean, I have quit multiple jobs, and so when you worked in TV news, you're always moving to a bigger market, you know, so you don't stay anywhere very long. And so I have many times over the years walked away from jobs without a clue what I was going to do next. And that's part of kind of like building your muscles. It's like weightlifting, you know, you take the little risks and then you keep getting stronger and stronger to take the bigger risks. So by the time I did that from Ford Motor Company, I had probably gone through 5, 6, 7 career transitions on my own. So I knew that I could, I had developed the ability to sort of not be defined by my job, but start looking at what your skills are. What are your skills? And then to be real clear about your strengths and skills, and that whole piece about joy. You know, when you're working that hard, you got to have joy, because that's where you get your energy. And so it's looking at your skills and then start looking at, okay, how can I use my skills in different ways? And so that's a big piece of it, so that you're not afraid to jump off that diving board. You know, and I would just say that I had done it a lot. And and I would say that I had built a very, very strong network. I thought that was really great that you had a number of, and I think Valerie Freeman, you were talking about that today, Not just networking, but learning how to leverage your network. You know, it's one thing to have a great network and know people, but the next level of skill is leveraging your network. And leveraging your network it's a two-way street. You have to help other people, and you have to ask for them to help you. So before you get out there, you have to be real clear about what your network is and where that support's going to come. That's my best shot. Yes. Yes.
I just had a question. So a while ago I heard...
Will you stand up so I can see you and everybody can see you?
Hi.
Thank you.
A while ago I heard a statistic that had a low percentage for women who actually wanted to be leaders. And so I was just wondering, while you were gathering your data, if you found any research that, supported that idea, and if there was a theme that you heard from women on the root of that, and your thoughts on it.
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that men have been bred for leadership for centuries. They have millions of examples all around them of people who look like them leading and in positions of power. We are on a really steep learning curve. If you think about it, women have only had the right to vote in this country for 90 years. We've really only been in what were non-traditional jobs for three decades, 3 or 4 decades. That's not a lot. And in terms of leadership, as I said, very small numbers. We all know Meg Whitman and Carol Bartz and Sally Krawcheck and Indra Nooyi. We know these names because there's so few. And so if you can't see it, you can't be it. You need to see people who you can identify with, who look like you, and you can say, wow, I can see myself doing that. So we don't have enough examples yet of women being surrounded by all that, so that from the time they're growing up, they can imagine themselves doing that kind of thing. So I don't believe that it's that, and I'm also not saying that everyone should be a leader. I don't believe that at all. Not everybody can play quarterback. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that women are underrepresented as leaders, and that women who hear that call, if you hear that call, and you can do better than, that, then here's what you have to do. Here's what we have to do next to shorten that learning curve and go after it, so that there are more. And here's my idea about your daughters. I've got the interlopers, the insiders, and the innovators, and that really kind of goes down to college. So what about these girls who are in high school and grade school now? Well, I'm going to call them the instigators. And I'm thinking, if we haven't cracked this by the time those girls are in college, I hope we're all instigating, because I'm going to be railing from my wheelchair about all of this stuff. And I need your help. Karen, I know you had a question.
Yes,
My question is regarding your book. Obviously, writing a book takes 3 years, a lot of travel, a lot of interviews. It's obviously an expensive venture to do. I've had ideas about books I might want to write, and I'm wondering, can you at a high level give direction on how do you know there's interest in the book that you might write so that it's worth the investment in your time and the money? And how does one go about that in the initial phases to know that it's going to be a worthwhile venture?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm a great believer that more women need to write books. More women need to write movies. More women need to tell our history. That men have done an excellent job with history, but women are not written into it. And it's up to us to tell our stories and to do that. And writing books is a really important piece of raising your voice. And so the first piece of it is that I think from what I said about why I was so passionate about wanting to do that. You do not make money from writing books. I can assure you of that. I make $1.99 from Amazon.com for every book, So I never imagined that I was going to make money from my book. You make money from speaking. You make money from that, but not selling books.
And so the really important piece is, number one, you've got to really get joy in that yourself, because I'm telling you, I mean, it's lonely writing a book. It's lonely. I mean, I wore out the keys on a laptop. There's no letters on my laptop at all. You know, you write the book, and I think it's 88,000 words. You know, you can do a word count. I think the final book is 88,000 words, and I probably rewrote every one of them about 5 times. So, you know, and I'm a writer, you know, so I would say do it. Don't count on making money from it, but also I knew there was a market out there for this book. Because when I went into Borders bookstore and went into the young woman at the information desk and said, now where would I find books on women's leadership? Because I wanted to see what was out there, you know, the competition. She kind of looks at me. Gosh, I don't really know. I don't know. And then she said, well, try women's studies. And I said, well, how about business? How about the business section? Oh yeah, I guess you could try there. And so I went into the business section. I actually sat on the floor and counted how many books on leadership there were stocked in that store. And there were about 38 titles, something like that. There were 3 by women. And they were, one was Arianna Huffington's book, which isn't really about leadership. It's about love and life and you know, I mean, there's good stuff in there, but it wasn't, I was going after something real specific. There was even a book on leadership written by the head of a motorcycle gang. And, you know, so I knew that there were millions of women out there for 4 or 5 decades who had been kind of creating a new leadership template. And I called it Leadership Gold. And I went looking for it as a reporter. And I know passionately that I found it. There's really good stuff in this book. And I got to a point where, I mean, I told all these people I was going to write a book. That's how I got these interviews. Well, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book. And then, you know, then people, and I told all my friends. And then you have people saying, is that book done yet, Ann? Well, how's that book? You can't be saying, well, what book? You know, you know, you have to, like, if you want to do something, you got to, like, put yourself out there. And that's how I motivate myself. And say, I'm going to do this. And then, you know, my pride comes in. And just like, I went into hibernation the last year. I pretty much dropped out to finish the book. Yeah, I'll be happy to talk to you about that. The way I did that, I mean, that's a whole story too. I spent a year with an agent and rewriting the book proposal, because you have to go through all of that, and then having acquisitions editors in New York, 28 years old, well, if you just change this, or you just change that, or change this, and I think I rewrote the proposal 3 times, which is 100 pages, you know, and you have sample chapters, and finally I told my agent, I said, you know what? I'm going to write my book. I'm done writing proposals. I'm going to write my book, and then we'll get it out there, because it's fresh now. You know, this stuff gets old. And so I went with what we call a hybrid publisher. It's called Ex Libris, and I own my book. And I put some skin in the game. And they want to know, I mean, I'm not Sarah Palin, you know, so any publisher wants to know, how are you going to sell this book? You know, and so that's what I did, and it worked great for me. Okay, and I'll be happy to talk to you more about it. Yeah, okay?
Thank you so much, Ann. We're so privileged to have you here. I thought that she was from DFW last night, and I kept on saying that. She's actually from Detroit. She came in specifically for this. So we just want to give you
One second.
Would you mind coming back?
She says she only makes like $10.
Yeah, you can blend.
Anne will be here after, so she can, if you'd like to come to her after and talk to her, I think she would be happy to do that. Yes, and we also have a table outside of this main room in the rotunda area, where Anne also has a setup, and if you'd like to purchase her book, it's out there. But right now, what we'd like to do is let you know that we definitely appreciate you coming out here. Wasn't she inspiring? Really wonderful messages. I know that they're important for our personal lives as well as for our families and for our children. So thank you very much. And we'd like to present to you this award from Nat and Win. And hope that you'll always remember us.
Oh, yeah.
We have conferences every